Come, morning is not just the beginning of a new day, it is the opening of a spiritual window. What you do first often determines what follows. The morning carries a unique spiritual weight because it is the point where intention is formed before distraction competes for attention. When the day begins without alignment, it is easy to spend hours reacting instead of leading. Prayer in the morning is not a religious routine. It is an act of positioning. It is the conscious decision to align before engaging. Every day comes with assignments, battles, opportunities, and decisions already embedded within it. These things do not wait for awareness, they unfold regardless. Morning prayer gives access to foresight. It allows a person to confront the unseen before encountering the visible. When alignment is established early, confusion loses its advantage. What overwhelms others later in the day is often neutralized in the morning through clarity. Prayer at the start of the day establishes authority. Authority is not volume, it is alignment. When the spirit is aligned, the mind follows. When the mind is settled, actions become intentional. Many people lose control of their day not because they are incapable, but because they surrender leadership to urgency. Morning prayer restores leadership by placing direction above pressure. The mind is most impressionable in the morning. Thoughts formed early tend to govern attitude throughout the day. Prayer recalibrates thought patterns before anxiety, fear, or distraction can dominate. It replaces reaction with response. This mental alignment reduces unnecessary emotional expenditure and increases precision in decision making. Morning prayer also creates spiritual sensitivity. Sensitivity is the ability to perceive subtle shifts. Many errors are not dramatic, they are subtle. Without sensitivity, people misinterpret signals, overlook warnings, and miss opportunities. Prayer sharpens perception. It tunes awareness, not calm. What feels like intuition is often clarity produced through alignment. There is also a dimension of order. Prayer establishes sequence. It places the spiritual before the practical, purpose before activity, and direction before motion. When order is correct, effort becomes efficient. Disorder does not always look chaotic. Sometimes it looks busy. Prayer corrects order by ensuring that activity flows from alignment rather than impulse. Starting the morning with prayer also stabilizes identity. Identity is often challenged by comparison, pressure, and expectation. Prayer anchors identity in purpose rather than performance. When identity is stable, criticism loses its power and praise loses its ability to distract. Stability produces consistency. Morning prayer is not about length but depth. It is about focus, not eloquence. Even brief moments of intentional alignment can redirect an entire day. What matters is sincerity and consistency. Consistency trains the spirit to respond quickly to direction. Over time, this responsiveness becomes instinctive. Another important aspect is gratitude. Morning prayer often begins with gratitude, which shifts perspective. Gratitude reframes challenges as opportunities and delays as preparation. This shift affects emotional resilience. Resilient emotions sustain effort. Effort sustained produces results. Prayer in the morning also builds discipline. Discipline is not restriction, it is structure. Structure creates freedom. When prayer becomes a fixed point, other habits adjust around it. This adjustment produces order in daily life. Order reduces stress. Reduced stress improves effectiveness. There is also a protective dimension. Prayer does not remove challenges, Come, but it equips response. Some battles are avoided not because they were absent, but because discernment redirected movement. Come, protection often looks like redirection. Prayer enables this. Morning prayer trains dependence on alignment rather than circumstance. Circumstances change rapidly. Alignment remains steady. Those who rely on circumstances are unstable. Come, those who rely on alignment remain consistent regardless of external conditions. When prayer becomes the foundation of the morning, the day becomes less reactive and more intentional. Intentional days accumulate into intentional lives. Over time, this practice produces clarity, stability, calm, and progress that feels effortless because it is aligned. Starting the morning with prayer is not about trying to control the day. It is about surrendering it to order. Come, when alignment leads, effort follows naturally. And when alignment is sustained, the day responds accordingly. The morning hours carry a unique spiritual significance because they represent the point of origin for the day's direction. Before voices multiply, before demands compete, before emotions are stirred by interaction and responsibility, the inner state is relatively uncluttered. This uncluttered state creates an environment where alignment is easier to establish. Alignment refers to the ordering of thought, intention, and awareness before action begins. Come, what is aligned early requires less correction later. When alignment is ignored at the beginning, the rest of the day often becomes an exercise in damage control rather than purposeful movement. Come, morning alignment matters because the human system is most receptive at that time. The mind has not yet been shaped by information overload. The emotions have not yet been pulled in multiple directions. This openness makes the morning a strategic gateway. Whatever gains access first often sets the tone. Come, if anxiety enters first, it frames the day through pressure. If clarity enters first, it frames the day through purpose. Prayer functions as a gatekeeper, deciding what is allowed to shape perception at the start. The spiritual weight of the morning is also connected to intention. Intention is formed before motion, not during it. When the day begins without intention, actions become reactive. Reaction places circumstances in control. Alignment reclaims leadership. Come, leadership of the day is not about predicting every event, but about establishing a posture that can respond accurately to whatever arises. Morning prayer forms this posture. Another reason morning hours are significant is that they reveal priorities. What a person gives their first attention to is often what they value most. This is not a moral statement, but a practical one. Attention is limited. Giving the first portion of attention to alignment communicates value internally. Over time, this trains the mind and spirit to treat alignment as essential rather than optional. Come, when alignment is treated as essential, decisions throughout the day naturally reflect that priority. Come, morning alignment also addresses fragmentation. Many people carry unresolved thoughts, emotions, and expectations from previous days into a new one. Without alignment, these fragments influence decisions unconsciously. Come, prayer brings awareness to these fragments. Awareness allows release. Release creates space. Space allows clarity. This process prevents yesterday's unresolved weight from dictating today's responses. The quiet nature of morning supports sensitivity. Sensitivity is not emotional fragility, it is perceptual accuracy. Noise dulls perception, silence sharpens it. Morning silence, whether external or internal, allows subtle impressions to surface. These impressions often guide decisions later in the day. When sensitivity is ignored early, signals are missed and choices become less precise. Alignment in the morning also stabilizes identity. Identity is often challenged by performance pressure, comparison, and expectation. Without alignment, identity becomes reactive, shifting based on feedback and outcome. Prayer anchors identity before engagement. This anchoring reduces emotional volatility. Stable identity leads to consistent behavior. Consistent behavior produces reliable outcomes. There is also a temporal dimension to morning alignment. Time feels different when alignment is present. Urgency decreases. Focus increases. Tasks are approached with intention rather than haste. This shift does not necessarily reduce workload, but it reduces internal resistance. Resistance consumes energy. Alignment conserves it. Conserved energy improves endurance. Morning alignment also influences language. Words spoken later in the day are often shaped by the internal state formed earlier. Prayer refines internal language, which then refines external speech. Refined speech reduces conflict and misunderstanding. Many conflicts are not caused by intention, but by tone shaped by misalignment. Another important aspect is that morning alignment restores perspective. Challenges that feel overwhelming later often appear manageable when viewed from a place of clarity. Perspective determines scale. Alignment adjusts scale. What alignment does is not remove difficulty, but place it accurately within a broader context. Morning prayer also interrupts automatic patterns. Many behaviors are habitual rather than intentional. Habits form through repetition without awareness. Prayer introduces awareness. Awareness creates choice. Choice enables change. This interruption prevents the day from being governed by unconscious repetition. Alignment at the start of the day also prepares the will. The will is exercised through decision making. Decisions made without alignment often prioritize comfort over purpose. Alignment strengthens resolve. Strong resolve supports follow through. Follow through determines results. Another dimension is emotional regulation. Emotions are not enemies, but unmanaged emotions distort judgment. Morning prayer allows emotions to be acknowledged and ordered. Ordered emotion supports rational decision making. This reduces regret later. Morning alignment also affects receptivity. Receptivity determines what is learned, corrected, or received throughout the day. A misaligned posture resists instruction. An aligned posture remains teachable. Teachability accelerates growth. The significance of morning hours lies in their ability to shape direction before momentum builds. Once momentum is established, redirection requires more effort. Alignment early reduces the need for correction later. This is why those who prioritize morning alignment often experience fewer internal conflicts throughout the day. Morning alignment is not about perfection, it is about positioning. It does not guarantee ease, but it increases accuracy. Accuracy reduces waste. Reduced waste improves effectiveness. Over time, this pattern compounds, shaping not just days but seasons of life in a way that reflects intention rather than accident. Prayer as the first point of authority over the day is rooted in the understanding that authority is established before engagement, not during conflict. Authority does not begin when challenges arise. It begins when direction is set. When the day starts without prayer, circumstances, demands, and interruptions take the lead. This leads to reactive living, where responses are shaped by pressure rather than purpose. Beginning the day with prayer reclaims leadership by setting direction before movement begins. Authority is closely connected to order. Whatever takes precedence establishes hierarchy. When prayer comes first, it establishes spiritual alignment as the highest priority. This priority governs all subsequent decisions. Without this order, activities compete for dominance. The loudest or most urgent often wins. Even when it is not the most important, prayer as the first act restores order by placing alignment above urgency. Prayer at the beginning of the day also establishes jurisdiction. Jurisdiction refers to the boundaries within which influence operates. Without defined boundaries, external forces intrude easily. Prayer defines these boundaries internally. It clarifies what will be engaged and what will be resisted. This clarity prevents unnecessary entanglement with distractions that drain energy and focus. Authority is also expressed through intention. Intention determines how energy is directed. Prayer refines intention by aligning it with purpose rather than impulse. When intention is clear, effort becomes focused. Focused effort produces results with less strain. Strain often indicates misalignment rather than complexity. Another aspect of authority is decision-making. Decisions made orally often influence the rest of the day. Prayer sharpens discernment before decisions arise. Discernment allows for accurate assessment of options. Without discernment, decisions are driven by emotion or convenience. Prayer stabilizes emotion, allowing reason and conviction to guide choice. Prayer as the first act also addresses identity. Identity determines how authority is exercised. Without a clear sense of identity, authority becomes insecure. Insecurity leads to overcompensation or withdrawal. Prayer anchors identity before interaction. Anchored identity allows authority to be exercised calmly and consistently. Authority is also reinforced through language. Words spoken in prayer shape internal narrative. This narrative influences tone and response throughout the day. A prayer-shaped narrative promotes confidence and clarity. A narrative shaped by anxiety promotes defensiveness. Language governs interaction. Prayer refines language at the source. Another dimension is resistance. Resistance does not always come in obvious forms. It often manifests as fatigue, distraction, or confusion. Prayer confronts resistance early. Addressing resistance before engagement reduces its impact. When resistance is ignored, it accumulates, making later engagement more difficult. Prayer as the first point of authority also cultivates discipline. Discipline is sustained obedience to structure. Beginning the day with prayer establishes structure. Structure creates predictability. Predictability reduces decision fatigue. Reduced decision fatigue improves consistency. Authority is also related to peace. Peace is not the absence of challenge. It is stability amid challenge. Prayer establishes peace by aligning expectation with reality. Misaligned expectation produces frustration. Prayer adjusts expectation, allowing peace to govern response. Another important aspect is that prayer reclaims ownership of time. Time often feels scarce because it is mismanaged. Prayer reframes time as stewardship rather than pressure. This reframing improves prioritization. Improved prioritization increases productivity without increasing stress. Prayer as the first act also strengthens resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover quickly from disruption. Prayer builds resilience by grounding emotion and thought. Grounded individuals adapt more effectively to change. Adaptability is a key expression of authority. Authority is also expressed through restraint. Knowing when not to act is as important as knowing when to act. Prayer cultivates restraint by increasing sensitivity to timing. Acting prematurely often undermines authority. Prayer reduces impulsivity. Prayer also enhances clarity of purpose. Purpose provides direction. Without clear purpose, authority becomes inconsistent. Prayer reconnects the individual with purpose daily. This reconnection prevents drift. Another dimension is that prayer establishes alignment between values and actions. Misalignment creates internal conflict. Internal conflict weakens authority. Prayer restores coherence. Coherence strengthens influence. Prayer, as the first point of authority, also influences relationships. When alignment governs the day, interactions become more intentional. Authority, expressed through clarity, reduces misunderstanding. Misunderstanding often arises from reactive communication. Authority is further strengthened by gratitude expressed in prayer. Gratitude shifts focus from lack to provision. This shift increases confidence. Confidence supports decisive action. Prayer also interrupts negative cycles. Cycles persist because they go unchallenged. Prayer challenges patterns before they repeat. Early interruption prevents escalation. Finally, prayer establishes a governing presence within the individual. This presence shapes response, guides decision, and stabilizes emotion throughout the day. When prayer leads, circumstances follow. Authority is not enforced, it is expressed through alignment, consistency, and clarity. Morning prayer recalibrates the mind, spirit, and focus by restoring internal order before external demands begin to shape perception. Recalibration implies adjustment back to accuracy, not the creation of something new. Throughout life, their exposure to pressure, information, disappointment, and unresolved emotion gradually shifts internal alignment. These shifts are often subtle and unnoticed, yet they influence thought patterns, reactions, and priorities. Morning prayer addresses these shifts before they solidify into patterns that govern behavior for the rest of the day. The mind is the first to be recalibrated because it processes interpretation. Interpretation determines response. Without recalibration, the mind operates on residue from previous experiences. Anxiety from yesterday becomes anticipation today. Frustration from past delays becomes impatience with present tasks. Prayer clears this residue by creating intentional mental focus. Focus narrows attention to what is essential, reducing mental noise that competes for dominance. Recalibration of the mind also involves replacing assumption with awareness. Assumptions are shortcuts formed through repetition. They save energy but reduce accuracy. Prayer slows the mind just enough to question assumptions. This questioning restores accuracy. Accurate perception prevents overreaction. Overreaction consumes energy and distorts judgment. The spirit is recalibrated through reconnection. Disconnection occurs when activity replaces alignment. Over time, this disconnection produces dryness, fatigue, and loss of motivation. Prayer reconnects intention with purpose. This reconnection restores vitality. Vitality is not emotional excitement, it is sustained inner strength. When vitality is present, engagement becomes natural rather than forced. Spiritual recalibration also restores sensitivity. Sensitivity allows subtle guidance to be perceived. Without sensitivity, guidance is ignored or misinterpreted. Prayer heightens sensitivity by reducing internal clutter. Reduced clutter allows subtle impressions to surface. These impressions often guide decisions that seem small but have significant impact. Focus is recalibrated by reducing fragmentation. Fragmentation occurs when attention is divided among competing priorities without clear hierarchy. Prayer establishes hierarchy by identifying what matters most. This hierarchy simplifies decision-making. When priorities are clear, focus becomes stable. Stability prevents distraction. Morning prayer also recalibrates emotional posture. Emotions influence motivation. Unprocessed emotion creates resistance. Prayer allows emotion to be acknowledged and ordered. Ordering emotion does not suppress it, it places it in context. Context prevents emotion from dominating reason. Recalibration also involves expectation. Expectation shapes interpretation. Misaligned expectation leads to disappointment even in success. Prayer adjusts expectation by aligning desire with reality. This adjustment reduces frustration and increases satisfaction. Another aspect is memory. Memory influences perception. Unresolved memories can distort present experience. Prayer brings these memories into awareness, allowing release or reframing. Reframed memory loses its controlling influence. Recalibration also strengthens intentionality. Intentionality directs energy. Without it, energy disperses. Prayer concentrates intention, increasing effectiveness. Concentrated energy produces momentum. Morning prayer also interrupts autopilot behavior. Autopilot conserves energy but reduces creativity and responsiveness. Prayer reintroduces consciousness into routine. Conscious action improves quality. Spiritual recalibration also restores confidence. Confidence is rooted in alignment rather than outcome. Prayer reinforces alignment, stabilizing confidence regardless of circumstances. Focus is further recalibrated by removing urgency-driven pressure. Urgency creates haste. Haste leads to error. Prayer slows perception, improving accuracy. Another dimension is alignment between belief and action. Misalignment creates internal conflict. Prayer restores coherence. Coherence reduces stress. Recalibration also enhances adaptability. Adaptability depends on clarity. Prayer increases clarity, allowing flexible response to change. Morning prayer also sharpens listening. Listening improves communication. Improved communication reduces conflict. Recalibration strengthens patience. Patience supports process. Prayer reframes waiting as preparation. Focus is also recalibrated by redefining success. Prayer shifts success from achievement to alignment. This shift reduces pressure. Another aspect is resilience. Resilience is sustained through perspective. Prayer broadens perspective, strengthening resilience. Morning prayer recalibrates by restoring balance between thought, emotion, and intention. When these elements are balanced, action becomes precise. Precision reduces waste. Recalibration also renews commitment. Commitment fades without reinforcement. Prayer reinforces commitment daily. The combined recalibration of mind, spirit, and focus produces internal harmony. Harmony supports consistent action. Consistent action produces progress that feels steady rather than forced. Establishing divine order before engaging daily activities is about arranging life according to priority rather than pressure. Order determines flow. When order is absent, effort increases and results diminish. Many people begin their day responding to urgency, messages, responsibilities, and demands without first establishing alignment. This approach places reaction above intention. Divine order reverses this by ensuring that purpose governs activity rather than activity dictating purpose. Order is not rigidity, it is structure that supports movement. Without structure, movement becomes chaotic. When the day begins without order, tasks compete rather than cooperate. This competition creates mental strain and emotional fatigue. Establishing order through prayer creates a governing framework that organizes thought, emotion, and action. This framework simplifies decisions because priorities are already defined Divine order also addresses hierarchy. Not everything that is urgent is important, and not everything that is important is loud. Prayer clarifies hierarchy by distinguishing between what demands attention and what deserves it. This distinction prevents energy from being wasted on distractions. Energy conserved through order can be invested in meaningful engagement. Order must be established before engagement because engagement creates momentum. Once momentum builds, redirection becomes difficult. Prayer sets direction before momentum forms. Direction without momentum is easy to adjust. Momentum without direction leads to exhaustion. Establishing order early prevents the need for constant correction later. Another dimension of order is alignment between inner life and outer activity. When inner alignment is absent, outer success feels hollow. When outer activity is disconnected from inner conviction, motivation declines. Prayer reconnects action to meaning. Meaning sustains effort. Effort sustained produces consistency. Divine order also regulates pace. Pace determines sustainability. Without order, people either rush or stagnate. Rushing leads to mistakes. Stagnation leads to frustration. Prayer calibrates pace by aligning effort with capacity. Capacity-aware pacing prevents burnout. Order also governs boundaries. Boundaries define what is permitted and what is resisted. Without boundaries, everything demands access. Prayer establishes internal boundaries before external pressures arise. These boundaries protect focus. Protected focus improves quality of work and interaction. Establishing order also influences stewardship of time. Time is neutral, but how it is ordered determines its impact. Prayer reframes time as untrusted rather than scarce. This reframing reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves clarity. Clarity improves prioritization. Another aspect of divine order is coherence. Coherence means that beliefs, values, and actions agree. Incoherence creates internal conflict. Internal conflict drains energy. Prayer restores coherence by aligning intention with action. When coherence is present, effort feels lighter. Order also stabilizes emotion. Emotional instability often results from disordered priorities. When trivial matters are treated as critical, stress increases. Prayer reorders importance, placing challenges in proper perspective. Proper perspective reduces emotional volatility. Divine order also prepares for interruption. Interruption is inevitable. Without order, interruption derails the entire day. With order, interruption becomes manageable. Prayer creates flexibility within structure. This flexibility allows adjustment without loss of direction. Another dimension is obedience. Order requires submission to sequence. Sequence determines readiness. Skipping sequence creates fragility. Prayer reinforces respect for sequence by emphasizing timing and preparation. Prepared engagement produces lasting results. Order also enhances discernment. Discernment is the ability to recognize what aligns and what does not. Without order, discernment is compromised. Everything feels equally important. Prayer sharpens discernment by restoring priority awareness. Establishing divine order also reduces noise. Noise includes excessive thought, distraction, and unnecessary concern. Prayer quiets internal noise. Quietness improves perception. Improved perception supports accurate response. Order also impacts relationships. When inner order is absent, interactions become reactive. Reaction leads to misunderstanding. Prayer establishes inner order, which produces measured response. Measured response improves communication. Another aspect is discipline. Discipline sustains order over time. Prayer reinforces discipline by making alignment a daily practice. Repetition builds habit. Habit maintains order even under pressure. Divine order also aligns expectation with reality. Misaligned expectation produces disappointment. Prayer adjusts expectation, reducing emotional strain. Reduced strain increases resilience. Order also supports creativity. Creativity thrives within structure. Without structure, ideas scatter. Prayer provides a stable framework within which creativity can function effectively. Establishing order also strengthens leadership. Leadership begins with self-governance. Self-governance requires order. Prayer restores governance by placing conviction above impulse. Another dimension is peace. Peace is the byproduct of order. Disorder produces anxiety. Prayer restores peace by restoring order. Order also influences confidence. Confidence grows when direction is clear. Prayer clarifies direction, stabilizing confidence. Establishing divine order before engaging daily activities ensures that effort is intentional, decisions are measured, and energy is preserved. When order governs the day, their activity becomes purposeful rather than frantic, and engagement reflects alignment rather than survival mode. Spiritual sensitivity and discernment activated at dawn are rooted in the reality that perception is clearest before distraction accumulates. Discernment is not merely intuition or instinct. It is the ability to accurately interpret signals, recognize alignment, and respond appropriately. Sensitivity is the capacity to perceive subtle impressions that would otherwise be drowned out by noise. Dawn represents a transition point where awareness is naturally heightened because the mind and emotions have not yet been overwhelmed by information, interaction, and responsibility. At dawn, the internal environment is quieter. Quietness is essential for sensitivity because perception requires space. Noise does not only come from external sound, it also comes from unresolved thoughts, emotional residue, and mental clutter. Morning prayer clears this clutter, allowing perception to sharpen. When perception sharpens, discernment improves. Improved discernment leads to better decisions throughout the day. Spiritual sensitivity is developed, not inherited. It grows through consistent attention to alignment. Morning prayer trains attention. What attention repeatedly focuses on becomes familiar. Familiarity increases responsiveness. Over time, sensitivity becomes natural rather than forced. This responsiveness allows subtle guidance to be recognized without struggle. Discernment activated at dawn also involves emotional neutrality. Strong emotions distort perception. Anxiety amplifies threat. Excitement exaggerates opportunity. Prayer stabilizes emotion before these distortions take hold. Stabilized emotion supports accurate assessment. Accurate assessment prevents impulsive decisions that create regret later. Another aspect of sensitivity is awareness of timing. Timing is often subtle. Opportunities and warnings rarely announce themselves loudly. They appear as impressions, hesitations, or nudges. Morning prayer increases awareness of these signals. Awareness allows response. Response determines outcome. Their discernment also involves distinguishing between urgency and importance. Urgency demands immediate attention. Importance demands deliberate focus. Without discernment, urgency overrides importance. Prayer restores the ability to prioritize accurately. This prioritization preserves energy and focus. Sensitivity at dawn also enhances listening. Listening is more than hearing words. It is perceiving intent, context, and implication. Morning alignment sharpens listening by reducing internal dialogue. Reduced internal dialogue improves comprehension. Improved comprehension strengthens relationships and reduces misunderstanding. Another dimension is pattern recognition. Discernment often operates through patterns rather than isolated events. Morning prayer enhances pattern recognition by creating reflective space. Reflection reveals repetition. Recognizing repetition allows correction. Correction prevents recurring error. Spiritual sensitivity also strengthens restraint. Discernment is not only about knowing what to do, but also about knowing what not to do. Restraint requires confidence in alignment. Prayer reinforces this confidence. Confidence makes restraint possible without fear. Discernment activated at dawn also supports adaptability. Adaptability depends on awareness. Awareness allows adjustment. Adjustment maintains alignment when conditions change. Without discernment, change creates confusion. With discernment, change becomes manageable. Sensitivity also affects creativity. Creativity depends on perception. When perception is sharpened, their connections become visible. Morning prayer opens mental space where insight emerges naturally. Insight improves problem solving. Another aspect is protection. Discernment often prevents harm by recognizing misalignment early. Many challenges are avoided not through confrontation, but through redirection. Prayer enhances redirection by improving awareness of warning signals. Spiritual sensitivity also deepens self-awareness. Self-awareness allows recognition of internal shifts. Recognizing fatigue, frustration, or distraction early prevents escalation. Prayer creates space for this recognition. Discernment also influences communication. Clear perception leads to clear expression. Clear expression reduces conflict. Morning prayer refines internal clarity, which shapes external communication. Sensitivity activated at dawn also strengthens patience. Patience is not passivity, it is informed waiting. Discernment identifies when waiting is necessary. Prayer supports patience by aligning expectation with timing. Another dimension is humility. Sensitivity requires openness. Pride dulls perception. Prayer cultivates humility by acknowledging dependence on alignment rather than control. Humility enhances discernment. Discernment also improves stewardship. Stewardship requires knowing where to invest time and energy. Morning prayer clarifies investment priorities. Clear investment improves productivity. Sensitivity at dawn also stabilizes confidence. Confidence rooted in discernment is calm, not aggressive. Prayer reinforces this calm confidence by grounding it in alignment. Another important aspect is consistency. Sensitivity increases with repetition. Morning prayer practiced consistently strengthens perceptual accuracy over time. Accuracy reduces error. Discernment also supports resilience. Recognizing meaning in difficulty reduces discouragement. Prayer reframes difficulty, strengthening resilience. Spiritual sensitivity and discernment activated at dawn influence the entire day by shaping perception before momentum builds. When perception is accurate, response is measured. Measured response reduces friction. Reduced friction allows progress to unfold with clarity, wisdom, and stability. Consistency in morning prayer functions as a stabilizing force for destiny because stability is produced through repetition, not intensity. One moment of alignment can inspire, but repeated alignment transforms. Destinies is not fulfilled through occasional insight, but through sustained posture. Morning prayer, when practiced consistently, becomes a structural anchor that governs thought, emotion, and decision making over time. Consistency trains the inner life. The mind and emotions respond to patterns. What is repeated becomes familiar, and what is familiar becomes influential. When prayer is practiced daily, alignment becomes the default rather than the exception. This default posture reduces internal conflict. Reduced conflict conserves energy. Conserved energy supports endurance. Morning prayer practiced consistently also establishes rhythm. Rhythm creates predictability. Predictability reduces anxiety. Anxiety often arises from uncertainty and lack of control. Prayer reframes control as alignment rather than dominance. This reframing stabilizes emotion and strengthens confidence. Consistency also reinforces identity. Identity is shaped by what one returns to repeatedly. When prayer is the consistent starting point, identity becomes rooted in purpose rather than performance. Performance fluctuates, purpose remains. Anchoring identity in purpose stabilizes self-perception across changing circumstances. Another important dimension is discipline. Discipline is the capacity to act according to conviction rather than feeling. Consistent prayer strengthens discipline by requiring commitment regardless of emotional state. Over time, this commitment strengthens resolve. Strong resolve supports follow-through. Follow-through determines outcome. Consistency in morning prayer also improves clarity. Clarity does not always appear suddenly. It often accumulates gradually. Each moment of alignment contributes to a clearer overall picture. Without consistency, clarity fragments. Fragmented clarity leads to hesitation. Consistent clarity produces decisiveness. Destiny stability requires resilience. Resilience is sustained through reinforcement. Prayer reinforces hope, perspective, and alignment daily. Without reinforcement, discouragement accumulates. Consistency prevents accumulation by addressing emotional and mental strain regularly. Consistency also sharpens sensitivity. Sensitivity improves through repeated exposure to alignment. The more often perception is recalibrated, the more accurate it becomes. Accurate perception reduces error. Reduced error stabilizes progress. Another aspect is habit formation. Habits govern behavior more than intention. Consistent prayer transforms alignment into habit. Habitual alignment requires less effort to maintain. This efficiency allows focus to shift toward execution rather than correction. Consistency also builds trust. Trust grows through reliability. When alignment is consistently pursued, confidence in guidance increases. Increased confidence reduces fear-based hesitation. Reduced hesitation accelerates movement. Morning prayer practiced consistently also strengthens patience. Patience is the ability to remain engaged during delay. Consistency sustains patience by providing daily reinforcement of purpose. Without reinforcement, delay feels like failure. With reinforcement, delay feels like preparation. Destiny stability also depends on coherence. Coherence means that beliefs, values, and actions agree. Consistency in prayer maintains this agreement by continually realigning intention and behavior. Misalignment is corrected before it deepens. Another dimension is perspective. Perspective determines how challenges are interpreted. Consistent prayer maintains a balanced perspective by revisiting alignment daily. This revisiting prevents distortion caused by prolonged pressure. Consistency also reduces volatility. Volatility arises from emotional swings and reactive decision making. Prayer stabilizes emotion by providing a daily anchor. Stable emotion supports measured response. Destiny stability requires sustained motivation. Motivation fluctuates naturally. Consistency compensates for fluctuation by providing structure. Structure supports engagement even when motivation is low. Morning prayer practiced consistently also strengthens boundaries. Boundaries are easier to maintain when alignment is reinforced regularly. Reinforced boundaries protect focus and energy. Another aspect is cumulative effect. Small daily moments of alignment accumulate over time. This accumulation produces significant transformation. What feels minimal daily becomes substantial over seasons. Consistency also reduces regret. Many regrets arise from impulsive decisions made without alignment. Daily prayer reduces impulsivity by strengthening discernment. Reduced impulsivity leads to wiser choices. Destiny stability is also influenced by adaptability. Consistent alignment improves adaptability by maintaining clarity during change. Clarity supports adjustment. Consistency in prayer also reinforces humility. Humility keeps the heart teachable. A teachable heart adjusts quickly. Quick adjustment prevents prolonged misalignment. Over time, consistent morning prayer produces an inner environment where destiny expression becomes stable rather than sporadic. Stability allows growth without collapse, progress without burnout, and movement without confusion. When alignment becomes a daily practice, destiny is no longer something pursued occasionally, but something lived continuously. Starting the morning with prayer is not a ritual meant to impress or a habit built out of fear. It is a deliberate act of alignment that sets the tone for everything that follows. The early hours provide a rare moment where clarity can be established before pressure competes for attention. When prayer takes this place of priority, authority is restored, focus is sharpened, and direction becomes intentional rather than reactive. What unfolds through consistent morning prayer is not just a better day, but a more ordered life. The mind is recalibrated, emotions are stabilized, discernment is activated, and purpose is brought back to the center before activity begins. Divine order replaces chaos, sensitivity replaces confusion, and consistency builds a stable foundation that supports long-term progress. Small daily moments of alignment accumulate into strength, wisdom, and resilience. Morning prayer teaches leadership over time, emotion, and decision. It protects from unnecessary battles, redirects from avoidable errors, and sustains clarity in changing conditions. When alignment leads, effort becomes efficient and movement becomes purposeful. A life that begins its days in prayer does not drift. It advances with intention, depth, and stability. Carrying the quiet strength that comes from walking each day in order rather than urgency.